accessory structures of the skin, aka the accessory structures of the integumentary system. We got two main ones that we're going to hit up first: the hair, the nail, as well as most likely go ahead and chat into the glands, like the sweat glands and the hair glands and all that other stuff. Let's begin by discussing hair. Hair really is just a bunch of dead, keratinized epidermal cells. The color and thickness really just depends on your genetics and just what hormones are coursing through your body. So the bits and pieces that I care about. We got the shaft, which is above the skin. And the thing that you can actually see, you can kind of see it flaking off a little bit. The follicle, which is below the skin, and the root, which goes into the dermis. That's the area that you're actually going to see where the cells are growing up and the hair is actually being made. So here is the bits and pieces of we got the hair shaft above. We are taking a cross section from right here, or taking a look-see underneath. So with just the stuff that is hanging out outside, we see that this looks like a jawbreaker almost. The 1, 2, and 3 layers these 3 layers don't really show up on the outside. You don't see it in the hair shaft. The only 3 that you do see is the medulla, the cortex, and the cuticle. And you always hear those commercials saying, "Oh yes, your cuticle is always in bad disrepair. Therefore, you should give yourself this $999.99 shampoo and conditioner that will make your cuticle perfect and pretty." That's what it's referring to. It's just the outside of that hair. Now, take a look-see at the base of that medulla. At the very bottom, you will see this hair matrix. That hair matrix are the cells that are dividing, that are going through mitosis, and sending off those cells to die and become a part of your hair. You will notice that the hair matrix also has that melanocyte again making that melanin and those different pigments, which also explains the different hair colors. If you're genetically prone to release different types of melanin, you can get black hair, orange hair, yellow hair, lacking pigment, or white hair, which is completely lacking pigment. So that is your hair matrix. You also notice that you got a lot of things innervating this portion, this outside. Now that we're done with the hair shaft, we got a lot of things innervating these different layers of this hair tissue. First off, you got the internal root sheath, the external root sheath, and this dermal root sheath, all of which just are there to help grow and make those cells do their thing and then finally die. You will notice that you do have some nerves innervating it, you have some blood vessels innervating it, but yet you don't really see that happening in this hair root itself, or this hair follicle itself, the shaft. You can cut the hair and it's going to be just fine. It's not going to make you hurt. You're not going to scream bloody murder, thankfully. But if you do pluck it, you definitely be pulling on some nerves. You'll definitely be most likely be messing with that hair follicle and that hair matrix, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience. Hair does grow back, but it depends on your genetics and your hormones, as well as what stage of life you're in. The lanugo, are the hairs that cover the fetus. The baby's born and it's like super hairy. It's like very, very thin, very fine hair. It's very soft, very enjoyable to touch. Then you got the vellus, which is the short, fine, pale hair you find in women and children that you'll find on men too, on their faces when they're maturing. It's not like super thick or coarse. It's like hair on the upper lip, that type of thing. And then you got the terminal. This is the stuff that's on the top of your head. This is also the stuff that, if you're a beast and super hairy, those are like the terminal hairs on arms and things like that as well. We do have skin glands that are associated not only with the hair, but also with different pieces. So you got the sebaceous gland, which is hanging out with the hair follicle to make it nice and oily, sacrificing themselves, releasing their oily juices onto the hair to make it nice and oily and make it shine. You got the eccrine sweat glands, which are the most numerous, which is the ones that you expect when you're out running about. That's the stuff that's popping off. Apocrine is the one that actually makes your body a bit smelly, like your armpits and your pubic region. And then there's the ceruminous glands, which are the ones that are like even more specially modified sweat glands, but they're in the ones found in the ear canal. If you want a heat map as to where these things are, again, the eccrine glands are found throughout. Apocrine you're going to find in the armpits, in the pubic region, as well as on a male, you'll find those apocrine glands hanging out in the beard. Sebaceous glands, that's the stuff that you're going to find on the labia minora, majora, the lips, the glans penis, all that other stuff. And finally, ceruminous is the earwax. Finally, our last accessory structure, the nail. You do need to be aware of it just a little bit. It's just, but fortunately, it makes sense. You got the free edge, which is like the part that if you got an itch, you need hopefully something is free for you, and that edge is that nail's there to donate its free edge to help you itch it. You got the nail body, aka the plate, as well as the lunula. Those of you that have learned Spanish or speak Spanish, luna means moon, so it kind of looks like a little moon. So you got a little lunula there, and then the eponychium, which is also a fancy word of saying the cuticle. Deep underneath that you can't see is the nail root with, of course, the nail matrix. That nail matrix is the one responsible for the creation and formation of that nail. The nail is made of keratin. A lot of these type of things that you see on beasts, cats, rhinos, things like that have some type of hard structure, like as well as such as antlers as well, are made of keratin. So it's really my PSA for protecting animals and all that stuff, like making medicine out of horns and all that, is you might as well just grind up some fingernail clippings and put it in a fine powder and put it in your medicine, because it'll have the exact same effect. I'm going to go ahead and tap into the functions of the skin, because we've already talked about it. Kind of. I like saying kind of. So thermoregulation should be pretty familiar. We talked about that a couple of times when we were talking negative feedback and positive feedback and all that stuff. Thermoregulation, that skin is there. It's the most superficial portion, so of course it's going to help with either dissipating heat from your body or trying to keep yourself warm. I'm going to skip the blood reservoir for just a second because we haven't talked about that, but the other ones we have talked about. The protection, you got lots of things that it protects against. You got bacteria that it fights against, those extra layers of tissue that are there. The epidermis are great at defending against bacteria. It's great against blocking against water-based toxins. It's also great against protecting against UV light. Remember that melanin is in that epidermis, and if you have too much UV light, you're going to damage DNA, and life is not going to be so friendly for you. You also have cutaneous sensations. If you remember that the dermis has a lot of those sensory cells, and the basal stratum has one of those Merkel cells in it to help with it. Finally, well, not quite finally, almost there, excretion and absorption. You're excreting stuff as sweat, as lipids and the apocrine and all that stuff. So you're excreting stuff. And one thing that you are excreting along with it is urea, which is the main component of urine, as well as some ammonia, which is both you don't want to be kept in your body. It's just easier to get rid of it. And it's great that it goes out your skin sometimes. You can also help with absorption. So the epidermal tissue, although it's dead, is fatty. So if you rub something that's lipid-based, such as the lotion or cortisone cream or things like that, it's going to get absorbed directly into the skin. So those are topical or ointment-based treatments. The hydrophobic, so you can just place it right then and there onto the skin, and it's going to do its thing. You also got the synthesis of vitamin D. Vitamin D can only be made or activated by the sun. If you're not out and about in the sun at least 10 minutes a day, you're going to have some bad time with your bones. Your bones, vitamin D helps absorb calcium from your guts rather than from your bones. If you can't absorb calcium from your guts, you need certain calcium to survive, especially your heart needs it. So it's going to take calcium from other places, and the only other place it really has is your bones. All right. Now let's go back to the blood reservoir. Blood reservoir, it kind of makes sense. You got it's the largest organ by far. The integumentary system is the largest organ by far. And if it's going to hold on to about 8 to 10% of your blood flow. It makes sense though. It's the thermoregulation point. It's a major thermoregulator, that epidermis, that integumentary system. If you're hot, you want that blood to come up to the surface and hopefully dissipate it off as sweat. If you're cold, well, you're going to cover up that epidermis. Finally, let's finish off with just a couple of things. Wound healing and some cancer-based discussions. I will go ahead and create another video for that, and I will see you all there.